Hi, and welcome to ChurchTherapy.com's Pastor Training Videos. I'm Kristen Kinsevich, licensed mental health counselor on staff at East Coast International Church in Lynn, Massachusetts. Today we're going to be talking about the emotional life of the pastor. Now in our last series, I did 2 videos on my book, Emotional Traps. Hopefully you've taken the time to look through those videos. And we talked about overall emotional health, those 5 areas of thinking, relationships, addictions, past, and self-care. We talked about how to use that with your parishioners, and then also how to take a look at your own emotional health. And so now I want to talk about kind of the next step of getting underneath some of the root issues related to how you're doing emotionally. A lot of this material is going to be coming from one of my other books, Getting Your Life Under Control, Making Order from the Chaos. Now, you may not feel like your life is in complete chaos, and you might feel like you manage pretty well, but I want to specifically look at some problems that pastors often face and look at the root issues underneath that. And so I really want to focus on specifically when ministry becomes more important than your family. This is a really common problem for pastors, and it's a really tough balance. God has called you to minister and care for your flock or your sphere of influence, whatever that looks like, your mission field. And He also has called you to be a godly father and husband, and it's really difficult to know what the balance is between those things. Certainly, I talked in the previous videos when we were doing the emotional traps about self-care and relationships and the importance of keeping those things in order. So take a look at that if you haven't had a chance. But really I want to go underneath a little bit. So we're finding out, okay, if you're a pastor that struggles with this balance of family and ministry, let's go underneath to maybe some of the root issues that might be there for you. And so the first thing we're going to look at is just kind of where you came from in your life. You have to look at the big picture of your life story. So your family system, your social systems, all of these, your cultural systems, those things fed in to kind of some of the beliefs and values that you hold today. Even your perspective on ministry borrows certainly largely from your family and social systems and your cultural system. And so it's larger than just whatever is going on for you today. Okay, I'm really busy, I have a lot to do, so I was going to go to my kid's softball game, but I'm not going to be able to make it because I have these other things to do. That seems like a isolated incident maybe, until a bunch of those things start adding up, and then you start seeing a pattern and a system problem. And so that's really what we're getting underneath today. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is when in your family system there was a skill deficiency. That's the first area, a skill deficiency. Basically, you didn't learn from your parents how to balance family and work, whether or not they were in ministry or whether they were even Christians. It may be that your dad specifically didn't teach you how to balance those things well. So take a minute and think about your own upbringing. Think about your childhood and your relationship with your father. Certainly we could talk in a whole other segment about how that might impact your view of God, but we'll set that aside for now and just talk about how that impacts you as a husband and father today. Now again, this is assuming that you're married or have children. If you're a single pastor, then you know that these things might not apply to you as strongly because you're not going to have that same balance. So if you've had a family system that you grew up in where work was the highest value, then you're probably going to lean towards that direction. And so your ministry becomes your highest value. So what does that mean then when your family feels neglected or when you haven't gotten to spend time with your wife or your children? And so really I want to encourage you to be asking, what skills do I have that help me balance these things? Or what skills do I lack? And where did I get the skills that I have? And where can I find someone who can help me with the skills that I lack? But really take some time to think about your family system growing up. What were the things that your family valued? And what were the skills that your parents taught you? You're probably carrying that out to a degree that maybe you wouldn't want to admit. If there were some negative things, there may be some patterns that you're repeating, generational kinds of things that you're seeing. So skill deficiency is one area to look at when you're looking at a root issue. It may be that you just don't know how, right? That's what skill deficiency we're talking about. And the second area is unmet needs. So again, thinking through your childhood, thinking through your life, are there needs that you've had, emotional needs that haven't gotten met, maybe even physical needs that have not gotten met? Sometimes we try to fill emotional needs with other things. Maybe it's food, or maybe it's working, or maybe it's, addictive type things, right? Pornography, we talked about that in the emotional traps. Those kinds of things are what create sometimes an imbalance in your work and family life, because there may be a need that your work is meeting for you that your family isn't meeting. Depending on the health of your marriage, your relationship with your children, kind of where you're at in your current family system that you have now, it may be that there are some needs that even now you don't feel like are met. So take a minute and think about your marriage, and are there needs that you feel you're not getting met there? If that's true, or if there's needs that maybe you're not getting met in your relationship with your children, which hopefully you're doing the giving on that end and not trying to emotionally need from your children. But if there's some imbalance there, then you might find that you're throwing yourself into your ministry because maybe that's where you feel appreciated. Maybe that's where you feel valued the most. On the other hand, you might throw yourself into ministry because you have a need to feel productive. And so maybe you're not getting appreciated. Maybe everyone criticizes everything you do, but you feel like trying you like owe them that, the congregation. You kind of need to feel like you're doing something to make it better. And so that, again, might lead to an imbalance. And so, again, I'm just trying to raise some questions for you to think through. This is going to apply to everybody in slightly different ways. And if you want to go deeper, again, my book on Amazon, Getting Your Life Under Control, can help that. A third area we want to look at is past hurts. Now, we all are carrying around, the effects of sin on our lives. So it doesn't just mean that you were abused or something like that, though maybe that is part of your story. But really, we want to take a look at how do past hurts impact your present day balance of ministry and family. We alluded to this too in the emotional traps. That P stands for past. So hopefully you've already watched those videos and had a chance to ask yourself how your past might be impacting you in the present. But in terms of balance of family and ministry, it may be that past hurts from the church could impact you. Again, maybe there's an avoidance of work. We've talked about overworking, but maybe you back off and you kind of can't face some of the things in your day. Maybe there's people in your church that you really can't face, or that you dread that phone call from. That's an emotional issue, and there may be some unresolved things from the past that are lingering there. But farther back than that, of course, your childhood, looking at what are the ways that your past hurts have shaped you as a person today. How is your personality, your work drive, your family life, how does that impact? Maybe there's past hurts between you and your wife, and maybe your church office is a safer place for you than home. And so those things are important, again, to address. And then the last piece that we're going to talk about for this video is biological and emotional disorders. Sometimes when you're looking for a root issue and you think, well, you know what, my parents gave me all kinds of skills and I have had a lot of my needs met, and so I feel okay about that, and I don't have a ton of past hurts, then I'm left with, what could it be? Sometimes there are just biological issues going on, like depression or anxiety, that can have their onset at any point. You don't have to have had this from childhood. It could be a midlife crisis that's an onset. It could be a transition or a stress, or it could just be nothing you can pinpoint. And so, again, if you're finding yourself really just with no passion, no interest in the things that you used to have, feelings of hopelessness or worthlessness, maybe trouble sleeping, weight changes, that kind of thing, that's depression. Or certainly anxiety symptoms that could range from just a general uneasiness or worry to full-blown panic attack, where you feel like the world is closing in on you and you're having trouble breathing, sweaty palms, those kinds of things. So if you're experiencing any of those things, of course, that's something to talk with your doctor about as well. I hope that gives you some good things, good questions to think about as you think through what's at the root, what's underneath maybe some of the emotional imbalance that you might be facing. And I hope that you'll tune in again next time. Thanks so much for watching.